Hello, today we're going to start talking about our first two phylums of the animal kingdom. We're first going to talk about phylum Porifera, which is made up exclusively of sponges, and then we'll talk about the Cnidarians, which are the jellyfish, coral, and so forth. So, just a real quick fun fact, sponge toxins are the greatest new source for pharmaceuticals. Okay, so phylum Porifera, some key characteristics of this phylum. They are exclusively sponges. The name actually means pore bearers. Okay, and the ancestor is from the flagellated protists. Again, animals have evolved from the animal-like protists. These are the least complex of all of the animals. There's about 10,000 different species, and they typically are asymmetrical for symmetry. Now, they are typically attached to a rock or shell at the bottom of the ocean. Okay, so they are sessile or sedentary. They do not move as an adult. They don't have any organs. They don't have nerves, tissues. They don't have a mouth, a digestive tract. All right, and they do have two tissue layers, and they're not really true tissue layers. And they do have a gelatinous region. Okay, so this is just showing you the ancestral flagellated protist. This is showing you the sponge. I would love to hop into this sponge right there. So they have an outer layer which is for protection. It is composed of flat cells, okay, and they are called porocytes. They're almost like donut shaped, but then has like a microscopic pore within it. They have an inner layer that has cells that are lined with flagella. That flagella is constantly moving back and forth. That's going to create a water current to allow the sponge to draw in food and oxygen and to get that waste out. Now, in between, there is a gelatinous layer. There's amoebocytes, which we'll learn about in a second. That's where that will be. And again, it's kind of found in between the two layers. But again, these aren't true tissue layers. This is what's showing you as the choana cells. These are the cells that are lined with flagella that are constantly moving to create that water current. Choanocytes are called collar cells. So we have pores. That is where water is going to enter to bring in food and oxygen. Okay. Spongiocele is that central cavity where water enters through. Osculum is the big opening on the top or where the water will exit. And it's a very large pore, very large opening. Amoebocytes are found in the mesophyll. And this is going to be named because they use the pseudopods. Now the function is to take up food by the choanocytes, digest it, and carry nutrients to other cells. It also helps form tough skeletal fibers within the structure. Okay. Spicules are for support and protection. They are spiked structures, and pretty much sponges are classified according to their mineral content and shape of the spicule. It's either going to be made up of calcium carbonate or silica. So it's going to provide support and protection. So just to show you the different structures, okay? So water is going to enter in through the pores, okay? The spicules are these yellow, that's support and protection. Collar cells or choanocytes here, and that's with the flagella that's going to have a water current bringing in food and water and then trapping the food, and then the amoebocytes are going to actually kind of amoebocytize it or phagocytize it so we can get the nutrients. And then the water will enter into the central cavity and then leave out the osculum. So very simplistic in structure. Reproduction can be asexual or sexual. Okay, so a lot of them are hermaphrodites. If you're going to reproduce asexually, if you're a sponge, you're going to do it either by budding or regeneration. All right, budding is when small groups of cells grow from the body wall of the adult, and then that bud will break off and attach somewhere else. No genetic variation. Regeneration is pretty much the replacement of lost parts, so it's used to repair and reproduce. Now, Sexually, they're hermaphrodites. This is an organism that contains both sperm and eggs. The gametes are going to arise from the choanocytes or the collar cells and the amebocytes. And they're going to release the sperm into the spongiocele, and then the water current is going to carry the sperm out of the osculum. Now, when the water enters the pores, if it brings in the eggs or the sperm, then there will be some reproduction that occurs. They do not fertilize their own eggs, and they can mate with any other individual of its own species. Okay, this will allow genetic variation to occur. And just a little fun fact, to obtain enough food to grow 100 grams, which is 3 ounces, a sponge must filter 1,000 kilograms or 275 gallons of seawater. Okay, and we'll watch this video in class, or you can click on it yourself. Okay, so phylum Cnidarian. These are a jellyfish, sea anemones, corals, hydra. They are very primitive. There's about 9,000 to 10,000 different living species. Most are marine and saltwater. They are radial symmetrical, meaning you can pass a line through any point in any direction. They don't have an obvious head. Okay, they have a hollow body. They do have a single opening, which is the mouth. They do have 2 tissue layers, ectoderm, mesoglia, and endoderm. And again, mesoglia is not a true tissue layer. This is fun facts. The largest jellyfish is 8 feet across and 150 feet long. And a man-o-war is actually a colony of several different animals, not just one. Okay, so there is no obvious head. Has a hollow body with one opening, which is the mouth. And that will function as both the mouth and the anus. So it's going to bring in food, and then waste will leave there. And there's tentacles that surround the mouth that will help bring in food. Now, we have a start of a digestive system. We have a gastrovascular cavity. Gastrovascular cavity is where digestion occurs. It's a sac that has a central digestive compartment. Now, it will act as a hydrostatic skeleton. So remember, that's going to be for movement. It's going to have contractile cells that will work together. When the animal closes its mouth, the volume of the cavity is fixed, and the contraction of those cells causes the animal to change shape and to move. And again, there are tentacles that surround the mouth that will help sting the organism and bring it into the mouth. So the cnidocytes, these are the stinging cells. These contain stinging capsules called the nematocysts. And the nematocyst is consisting of a coiled thread that is attached to a spiked spear, and it has toxins in it. So when the nematocyst is stimulated, water is going to rush in, generating that hydrostatic pressure, and that's going to eject the microscopic spear with a force that can penetrate the body wall of the prey. That thread ensnares the prey, and the prey becomes immobilized because of the toxins. So the cnidocytes are used for capturing prey to get the food and defense. These are the stinging cells. All right, just a little fun fact. The Portuguese man-o-war produces venom as potent as a cobra. And it's capable of raising large welts simply by contact with the skin. And a sting of a sea wasp that's found in Australia is powerful enough to kill a human. So this is just showing you the whole function of how a cnidocyst or nematocyst would work. And this is showing you the actual injection of the thread with the toxins. Okay, so we do have a start of a nervous system. It's very, very simple. It's called a nerve net. So the nerve cells, or the neurons, are going to be arranged within the body. A lot of short neurons. There is no definite pattern, but because the neurons are short, the response is localized, only involving one part of the body. It does serve to coordinate activities and slow the movement of the animal. Now, the animal can detect and respond to stimuli equally from all directions, and they do not have the brain. Cnidarians can exist in 2 different body forms. We have the first body form, which is a polyp, which is vase-shaped. It's very cylindrical in nature. Typically, these are the sessile animals that are attached to a surface with their mouths facing upwards, waiting for prey. And this is what we see with the hydra and the sea anemone. The medusa is bell-shaped or umbrella-shaped. They're free-swimming. They're floating around. They move freely in the water by a combination of drifting and weak contractions of that bell-shaped body. Okay, so the mouth is actually downward, and this would be the jellyfish. Now, some cnidarians can go between polyp and medusa stages. That's called dimorphic life history. Okay, just so you are aware of that. This is the hydra. We'll do a lab on this. Jellyfish. Structure of the polyp. And this is the medusa. So, reproduction can be asexual or sexual. Again, asexual is typically found in the polyp form, and they produce buds, those outgrowths that will break off. Typically, the medusa will go through the sexual reproduction, and they're hermaphrodites, so they produce both sperm and egg. And again, they release those into the water so that a new individual can develop. So the hydra is what we're going to talk about and look at in class. This is freshwater polyps with a cylindrical body. They are small. They're about 0.5 centimeters long. They do have tentacles on their body, and they do surround the mouth, and you will get to watch them sting Daphne and hopefully bring it in so that you can see them go through the digestion. Again, they don't have brain, spinal cord. They have that nerve net. They don't really have a transport system. They do have that gastrovascular cavity. This is showing you the bud. So as far as the digestive system goes, it's going to occur once the tentacles bring in the food source. And then the food goes into the gastrovascular cavity. Okay? So the enzymes are going to break down the food, and the cavity is lined with numerous gland cells that will secrete those enzymes. So that will break the food down into smaller bits, and they're going to use phagocytosis and diffusion to get that nutrients inside. This is showing you some feeding of a hydra. And again, the gastrovascular cavity. Buds. Jellyfish are medusa that don't actively pursue their prey. They do kind of have a ring of muscles that surround the mouth or the medusa, and that will allow muscle contraction to help push against the water to allow the jellyfish to move upward. And size could be 2 centimeters to 2 meters in diameter. This would be the sea wasp. Corals are polyps, okay? They do secrete a wall of calcium carbonate around themselves. They do live either alone or in colonial forms, and pretty much each polyp generation builds on the skeletal remains of earlier generations to construct rocks with shapes characteristics of the species. So the skeletons that we see are actually called coral. And this is just different types. So, if you guys have any questions, see me tomorrow. Thanks.